There's been lots of talk on Facebook and through email about the 50mm f1.8D and the newer 50mm f1.8G lenses. So let's take a closer look at them, and maybe even compare them to the 35mm f1.8G lens. First, the 50mm f1.8D on my D300S. Back in the bad old days with autofocus lenses, the focus motor was controlled by a motor in the camera that is linked to the lens through the lens mount. Not all newer DSLRs have the in-camera motor, so you would have to manually focus if you were to use this lens on one of those cameras. My D300S does have the in-camera motor. So, if you see here as I focus, the focusing is a little bit loud. Also, on entry-level cameras, the camera's focus motor can be a bit slow. Now I'm going to put the 50mm f1.8G lens on the D300S so you can see a difference. Now with the 50mm f1.8G lens, it has AFS, which means that there is a special super quiet autofocus motor on board the lens itself. So let me show you how this one focuses. You may not have heard it, but it just focused. It's quiet and it snaps into focus with no complaints. Also, I have a full-time manual focus override ring on this lens. See, I'm turning it here. But what's really nice is that the focusing ring doesn't move when you're having the camera autofocus, nor does the filter ring, in fact. Optically, both of these lenses are terrific. But if you have an older camera where the aperture must be set on the lens, you must use the D lens. If you are using the D lens on a newer body, though, you will be locking the aperture ring, rendering it unnecessary. And that's the exact reason why the G lens does not have an aperture ring. The aperture is set in the camera. Don't care about the focus noise, and you have a camera like this D300S with a focus motor in the body? Then you may be interested in the D lens because it is presently 100 smackaroos less expensive than the 50mm f1.8G. My preference between the 50mm f1.8G and D? I like the G for two reasons. One reason is the AFS. I like to be quiet and unobtrusive when I shoot. They're both small lenses, so I can zip around with a light setup, but the G lens has the added bonus of the super quiet autofocus. And my second reason is that my cute D3100 here can focus with it. Could it be a challenger has entered this death match? Why 35mm? What are you doing here? Stop this, both of you. There's room for both of you in my camera bag. If you have been watching some of my recent videos, you've seen me talking a lot about my 35mm f1.8G lens because for DX cameras, which it is designed for, like my D300S, it provides a very natural field of view. Great for walking around and taking photos of people, animals, buildings, landscapes, basically whatever comes your way. And it's a great performer in low light, which can be the difference between getting the shot and getting a blurry mess. Now, the 50mm is a classic. This is an FX lens, which means it will work both on FX and DX cameras. Now, with the DX crop factor, this is going to perform like a 75mm lens on a DX. That's closer to the field of view of a portrait lens. And I will tell you, this makes a great portrait lens on DX. It's mighty sharp and it opens all the way up to f1.8, so you can get a great sharp portrait while blurring out the background to keep the emphasis on your subject. The bottom line is, for my DX cameras, the 35mm is going to be on my camera more often because I can fit more in the frame while I'm walking around. With the 50mm over here, especially when photographing people, I find myself having to back up a lot, and that's not always possible indoors. Now when I'm in the studio or have plenty of room to work with, the 50mm becomes a great choice, but I don't see myself using it quite as often as the 35mm. So, do we have a winner? For me, yes, the 35mm. If you're trying to decide between these three lenses, because let's not forget about the 50mm f1.8D lens, you have to look at the pros and cons of each and see what will suit you best. Everyone is looking for something a little bit different from their photography. Just because this 35mm lens will work best for me doesn't mean that it's the best choice for you. So tell me about your photography and which of these lenses you would think would be your favorite. You can email me anytime or post on my Facebook wall or even find me on Twitter.